People seem to forget, if you change today, today will change your life. 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Welcome to the next episode of the Self-Believe Chief podcast. We're here with life and performance coach David Hulman. And today I want to talk a bit about sales or selling, because for a lot of people this is something that causes an incredible amount of stress. But we all sell in our everyday lives. We are selling ourselves to other people. And I've had a lot of trouble in the past in terms of being able to communicate the value that I knew I could provide people, the transformations I could create for people. But being able to get that across and communicate that was very difficult. And I want to show you the only thing that you really need to know when it comes to sales, on top of all the skills and the looping and the overcoming objections and all of this stuff, there's a fundamental ingredient that just simply doesn't get talked about enough. A number of years ago, when I started my coaching practice, I actually made a sale on my first ever conversation. So I have free discovery calls with people where they've scheduled a call with me to talk about coaching. I actually made a sale of the first ever call. I thought, well, this is easy. This is going to be a straight line of, constant progress forever and a day. And the reality was that was not the case. As anyone who's gone through sales or selling, it's just never going to be the case. And we just go through these blips. And it actually took me another 40 phone conversations before I made another sale. And I thought, that can't happen. That's just not right. How am I fundamentally missing the point when it comes to being able to sell people when I knew I could help them? So, taking that into consideration, I spent the next few years really just studying selling and sales and learning all the tips and tricks and, how to understand and do all of this stuff. And I was trying to implement all of this stuff that I'd learned, and I spent money working with people to try and get it. And it just wasn't working. I knew that once they were a client, I was making great progress with them and they loved what they were doing. But actually before that, bringing people through the door in the first place, I was really, really struggling. Really, really struggling. And so what happened was I got into a place where I was trying to learn so much about sales, and I took the next step. I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I do when I want to fast track a skill. I completely immerse myself. So I had a 3-month period where I didn't listen or watch anything else or read anything else unless it's to do with sales for 3 months solidly. And the amount of progress I made in terms of my understanding of sales went up exponentially. In terms of the progress I made with actually selling clients, 0. Nothing. Absolutely no progress. So I was getting very frustrated and really, how am I ever going to do this? And what I've come to realise is I've worked with people now in terms of a performance side and helping them with their sales. And many people experiencing a lot of stress and a lot of struggle, whether they're a trainer or a coach or a consultant or therapist or counsellor, whatever it is, struggling to actually bring people through the door and the stress that comes with that. It's like a vicious cycle, you get more stress, so you're trying to force it more and you're trying to make more sales and you're trying to convince people, and it maybe comes across a bit more desperate and needy, and then the other person feeds off that and they don't really want to work with someone like that, and you come across more as a salesperson than as the expert that you are. And that's key, what I've just said. You come across as more of a salesperson than the expert you are. And see, it was a hard road for me to realise that. It was a hard road for me to really actually get that. See, I made a sale of my first ever call. And then all the stuff I'd learned in sales, it just didn't work again after that. After the first call, before the first call, I'd never done any sales training before. Then I started I wanted to make even more sales and more sales. I started learning loads of all this sales tips and advice and, whatever else. And all of a sudden I wasn't making any calls, as I've already said. I wasn't making any sales. I thought, what on earth is going on? These people, these are experts, and these people can't be wrong. It must be how I'm applying all of this stuff. And what happened was I had a conversation with someone, a potential client, and they were struggling with love and relationships, and they spoke to me and they said, I remember recently being in a dark room being in a dark room and feeling scared and vulnerable, and how is my life ever going to improve? And it just doesn't feel like I deserve or I'm going to get the happiness that I want. And for whatever reason on that day, that really hit a nerve, or I felt it, or everything changed. Because how he described that moment was the moment I'd been in, and the moment I'd got into coaching in the first place. And here's the key ingredient when it comes to sales. Talking about who you were in the first place. What happens is we do all this sales training, we do all this stuff to become this, version of a more professional version of ourselves, one that can make all these more sales. And you need sales training. Everyone needs sales training to be able to understand how all of that stuff works. But what happens is when you try and apply it, it doesn't work. But when you just naturally do it, you're not thinking about it, you just do it, then that stuff starts to work. Now, how do you ever get to that place apart from doing lots of sales training? You've got to bring a more important skill to the table, something that I don't think enough sales experts talk about. See, when that person told me that, that being in that dark room and that hit a nerve with me, what I did in that moment, literally in my chair, I leant back. And I remembered why I got into coaching. It was to serve people. And I leant back so I could listen, so I wouldn't get involved or jump in too quickly or whatever. I just leant back and listened. And I leant back and I remembered why I got into coaching. And from that place of leaning back, not trying to make a sale, I was struggling financially, but I thought, I'm not going to try and make the sale. I'm just going to listen, I'm going to serve. And we'll get on to the point, if the conversation is moving the right way, then naturally it will fall into us working together. So I leant back, I listened, and I served. And we got to the end of the conversation. I made the proposal, made the pitch, and I thought, it's probably not going to work anyway. And they bit my hand off. And it was amazing. And it'd been ages since I made a sale at that point. And they absolutely bit my hand off. And I thought, it's interesting. What happened in that week was I did exactly the same thing. I leant back. I served. I didn't try and sell, I served. Don't sell, serve. Okay? So you're listening and you're serving and you bring that value. And when you go from that place, like I did, what happened with me was I would make 3 sales in 1 week. Having not made a sale for however long, I made 3 sales in 1 week. I started to get it. It didn't mean I was going to be able to work with everyone or sell everyone or that I'd want to work with everyone. But all of a sudden I knew how to communicate my value. And it was a very simple thing. You talk about serving. What I do is I just went back to how did I feel when I watched that first video that persuaded me that coaching was the thing for me. I watched a video by a guy called Les Brown. And I knew in that moment. And Joe Rogan spoke about this recently where it's like when you find that thing, there's like an inner smile. It's like your soul is smiling. And that's exactly what it was. I watched this video by Les Brown. He said, it's not over until you win. And it changed my life. Forever. I brought that feeling back to the table when I was speaking to people because your clients or your customers want to be lit up. And if they want to be lit up, you have to light up. And if you want to light up, go back to that moment where you were lit up. When you first found this passion or interest or whatever it was and you thought, yes, this is for me. Go back to that place. Because if you can access that place, that passion, that enthusiasm, that desire to help people, and that's authentic and you bring that to the table, that is more important than any single sales technique you'll be taught. Trust me, save yourself years of not making sales by actually just serving and go back to the place where you served. Get the sales training. Everyone needs sales training. But then what I always say is practice to be perfect and then perform with authenticity. Basically what that means is when you're practicing by yourself or on your own or whatever, try and be absolutely perfect. But when you go and do it, just do it. Don't try and be perfect because you won't be. And it will help that you aren't. Okay, when people seem perfect, people, a bit cynical and everything else, you won't be perfect, and that will work in your favour. But you'll just naturally do the things you've done in your training and your practice. If you want to sell, serve. If you want to know how to serve, go back to that moment when you first found this passion and desire to help people, and bring that to every conversation. If you bring that to every conversation, you will light up your clients and customers. And when they feel lit up, their belief and certainty in you will go through the roof. Okay? Don't sell, serve. My name is David Hulman. If you change today, today will change your life. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your life. And I'll speak to you on the next episode.